man, and I mean on your station.
My life is so beautiful. You know, say yeah, it's all about bread, man.
And I say this is the original Chronic saying. You're tuned into the original bread man. Keep it locked. Rastafari said that. Ease out.
Yeah, you don't know this is a girl bad girl Cecile representing for bread man.
All who genuine bread man, reroute them. And all who are touch, we mute them. Them no smoke, them no sick, them no have pink eye, but them yeah in red. Yeah man, bread man. We're better than everything. All stead man.
How you doing, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the vlog. This week I'm gonna hit on a little note, something that I mentioned in the last video when I was with Eddie up there and I was talking. He asked me the question about why I started the vlog, and then I mentioned about a thing that I did, my activist act that I've done. So I'm gonna touch base on exactly what that was. The reason why I'm definitely going to do this video right now is because, yes, I am based in New York, and right now it's September 6th, I'm videoing this, and there's some laws changing in New York. And these laws that are changing like right currently now are kind of affected by what I did a few years back. Not saying that exactly, but it basically, let me just skip to it. Stop and frisk. Now, a lot of people know about Stop and Frisk. Stop and Frisk was a regular practice by the NYPD in New York. And it became like a whole debate about 10 years ago of how legal it is to stop and frisk. And it was deemed that it was illegal mainly because the police department was mainly stopping and frisking minorities, mainly young Hispanic and black men. And the majority of these stop and frisk were not fruitful, meaning regular protocols that police usually have to go by, obtaining a probable cause before you can even search a person. Those protocols were being bended, sometimes broken. And that's the reason why stop and frisk became a whole debate and came into the court systems where a state Supreme Court judge ruled, it was August 12th, 2013, ruled that stop and frisk is illegal, and the NYPD had to stop the practice. Now, how I played a role in that was in 2010, January 4th, I was arrested. And I was arrested based on a stop and frisk. And I fought that case. And long story short, I beat the case. And then I sued the NYPD for illegally stopping and frisking me. And I ended up settling in 2011 with the NYPD. To be honest with you, I settled that case not even a week after burying my father in 2011. I buried my father on January 8th, and I believe I settled the case like about a week later. But I settled that case really because I was at a point in my life where I just felt like I needed to close these doors behind me and start opening new doors. It was a big change in my life. My father's somebody that I loved and I knew my entire life, and I just lost him. So I don't know if it was coincidence that they offered this settlement to me at that time, but the money wasn't even important. Whatever they offered me, they don't even know. Whatever they offered me, I probably would have just took it just to put an end to it because I didn't want to fight anymore. But lo and behold, they end up giving me $75,000 for stopping and frisking me. And that $75,000 raised a red flag, and that's what started the whole snowball with this class action suit about police misconduct by the NYPD. And the center of that whole stop and frisk thing was my case, because my case was the most that the city ever had to pay to stop and frisk someone. $75,000. Usually the city pays for police misconduct. Usually the city pays, believe it or not, $15,000 to minorities. It's like an unwritten thing. Lawyers know what I'm talking about. Lawyers watching this know what I'm talking about. That's the offer that's usually offered by New York City to minorities when they bring up a police misconduct case. So me getting $75,000 for a stop and frisk raised a big red flag. And that snowballed into the whole decision that stop and frisk had to end. And that decision, like I told you, was on August 12th, 2013. And on August 13th, 2013, the next morning. Hold on. Let me get something to show you. Okay. See what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna go, okay, see, actually this newspaper, you can see it, is August 12th, 2013, the Daily News in New York. That's how the cover looked. I'm gonna frame this newspaper. I'm gonna make that part of this video, actually. I'm gonna frame this newspaper and, hold on, let me just find, that's page 9 of that newspaper. You can see who that guy is. I was a little fatter back then. But that's what it read. Narcos going on a 2-page spread. And it mentions that cops illegally searched his car and had to pay me $75,000. It shows you the $15,000 for this guy. This guy was actually spent a week in jail. And he was beaten by the police. And that's what he got compared to what I got for a stop and frisk. So the Daily News put it on the same day that the Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court, made the decision to make it unlawful to stop and frisk. And that's why I said a lot of people don't really know that I played a part in that. But I'm coming clean. And it's something that I felt like I had to do. It's something that, and I'm going to explain to you, a lot of people have come to me over the years, and they've even said, they've come to me and they said, how do you feel? Do you feel like stop and frisk was helping with the gun violence thing? Because there's a lot of people getting shot and all this stuff. But to be honest with you, I'm against gun violence. No doubt about that. Gun violence has no place in this world. Really and truly, in a perfect world, there would be no guns, but that's not what we live in. We do have guns. Our law enforcement carry guns, and there's guns by civilians. Our Supreme Court, our Constitution, the Second Amendment gives all citizens the rights to bear arms for their self-defense. Now, the reason why I'm doing this video even today, why I said there's new laws changing, is because if you don't know, in June, the Supreme Court made a new ruling stating that states who restrict the right to bear arms to only in the home is unconstitutional. And the right to bear arms in public is what the Constitution is supposed to ensure. And from this point on, all states have to abide by that law. The states are still allowed to have restrictions on gun licensing, which I agree with. I believe that a gun is a responsibility that not even though it's a right that everybody has in America, it shouldn't be in everybody's hands. So there should be some kind of regulation, because this can't be the Wild West. So with the whole Supreme Court decision in June, New York and some other states, about like 6 states in the country, they have to re-scramble and restructure their whole law system and their gun laws right now to abide by the Supreme Court decision. So restrictions on concealed carry, like it used to be in New York, where in New York City, you actually cannot even conceal carry up until this point. But with the Supreme Court decision, they're going to have to be changes. So I remember when I was a business owner, I tried to get a firearm, a licensed firearm. And there's so much stuff you got to go through in New York City to get a licensed firearm. You have to show them, you have to show a reason for why you want a licensed firearm, that's one of the things that the Supreme Court has made this ruling for. They're saying that there's no other right in the Constitution, Bill of Rights. There's no other right where an individual or citizen has to show a reason to exercise their right. And so it's like a funny thing, because that Second Amendment, it is an amendment, it is part of the Bill of Rights, so it should be viewed as all the other Bill of Rights. So it's a very touchy situation, because gun violence is a real thing and people are dying. And there are illegal guns out there. So I think what we need to do is just really get a grip on this, get a proper license and proper background checks, proper mental mental checks for people who want to carry firearms. Sure, restrictions. I don't believe that all ages should be carrying a firearm. I don't believe a child should be walking around with a firearm. I don't believe in that. Some states do allow that. I don't believe in that. I believe that you need to be at a certain level of mental capability to have that responsibility, you know. And age restriction, I have nothing against that. Age restriction, background checks, I have nothing against that. The Supreme Court decision, I have to say, because I'm going to get more and more into exactly how the Supreme Court worded the decision, but in the whole, I'm going to have to agree with the Supreme Court, withholding up the Constitution, keeping the Constitution, those Bill of Rights strong, and still trying, giving the states leeway to still be safe. And that's what New York is about to start doing. They're about to start implementing some new regulations. Yes, some people don't even know this, but yes, concealed carry is legal in New York right now. And starting September 1st, the governor of New York, Governor Hochul, she just laid out a new set of regulations on background checks, on training classes that new applicants for concealed carry license would have to go through, certain classes they would have to go through, certain different preparation to make sure that you're mentally capable and you understand even certain situations that you don't even have to use the firearm. Teaching licensed firearm carriers certain ways of de-escalation instead of going to the really pulling that trigger. And I believe the education is the most important thing for you to keep this right, this right from the Constitution, keep it still intact, but keep people safe. You have to educate the people. And I believe what Governor Hochul is doing is a good thing, and I believe other states should follow suit with that. I know there's a lot of lawmakers that are upset with the decision from the Supreme Court because, of course, that decision now makes their job a little harder. Of course, lawmakers, law enforcement, it makes their job a little harder now too, because by them having the restrictions that they had for all these years, not allowing you to basically carry a firearm outside of your home, that gave them the right to regulate anyone they seen with a firearm outside of their home. Now they can't do that. That makes their job a little harder. So of course they're not going to like it, but it is in the Constitution. It is one of our rights. So we're just going to have to adapt to it. And Governor Hochul, she's trying to adapt, and she's putting in regulations to try and keep people safe and keep firearms in the right people's hands. And I believe that's the right thing to do, and repeatedly check, because you might be mentally competent to have a firearm today, but a year from now you may have went through certain things and you may not be competent anymore. So I believe annual checkups, annual mental, different things. We're gonna have to all go through this together. The gun violence has got to stop though, and you never know, this might even work in a way, because in Jamaica they have a thing they said, "Duppy no for frightened." And some of these gun violence events, they even like these mass shootings, some of them happen, I really believe, because the perpetrator knows there's no one there with a firearm to go against them. But do you think that same perpetrator would have that with that drive to go do that act if he didn't know how many people in Buffalo? That's New York, which is the same laws. That last mass shooting in Buffalo in that supermarket, do you think that perpetrator would be that bold to walk up in that supermarket if he didn't know that 80% of the people in the supermarket had guns on them? He would think twice before doing that. So that is one of the things that we need to think about too, is maybe that's the best way to combat it, is to make sure that it doesn't look like everybody's a victim out there right now. And you could be a victim if you're trying to victimize people. So when they start thinking like that, they're going to start second thinking what they're doing. So this newspaper, it's a long time that you can see the newspaper is looking old and all that stuff. A friend of mine told me to head to Michael's and see if I could get it framed. I'm going to get that page framed. And that's part of my life right there. And like I said, I did want to start this vlog to start documenting my life. So this is a very important part of my life, and like I said, it did affect a lot of people. So I'm gonna try and go to Michael's and see if I can get this frame and preserve it any further from where it is, because I do want to keep this. You guys can follow along with me, you know what? So I'll see you in a few.
Bread man, make myself your life is not a dead man.